shout out to everybody. People are asking me about the HE600, and I've been saying I'm going to get around to that, and it's just a lot of things keep coming up. I keep finding new DAC amps to talk about, new headphones to talk about, but I do want to spend some time with the HE600. I went over some of the notes. I spent an extensive period of time with this headphone. I was there for 2 days listening to everything. The HE600, right? It comes from the HE6, the lineage. So the diaphragm of it is like, I think like 60% smaller than what you would get from like a HE6. It's a lot easier to drive than the HE6 because the HE6, it's just, the impedance isn't as sensitive. Um, in my opinion, I want to kind of give you guys a feeling of different headphones when I'm talking about the HE600, right? So I got a chance to listen to the Ananda Unveiled. I listened to the Arya Unveiled, the HE1000 Unveiled. I listened to, just any hyphen that you can really think of as far as all of that. But it's only a few of them that I'm going to compare it to. One being the Edition XV, and kind of just giving you what I think about the headphone, right? As far as the way it looks, I do like the metal design. Some people don't like it. I like the metal design of it. I think it looks really cool, industrial. I'm a guy. I think it looks like pretty good, pretty solid. When you are handling the headphone, I feel like the strap is the same strap as the Ananda Unveiled. It kind of feels like that to me, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? The thing that I had my reservations about with the HE600, at least it was the one that I was dealing with, is that, and I want to say that specifically because not all of them may do this, right? This thing was handled by a lot of people. So when you are moving around the headphone, you can hear a lot of mechanical noise with the headphone. So I did not like that. And that's one thing that I did not like about my Edition XS. It just felt like really like you can hear creaks and stuff like that. You don't hear the creaks, but you hear like a lot of with the HE600, just the mechanical noise of moving it around, which I don't like that, but then again, like this thing's at a show, it's a demo unit, everybody listens to it, so who knows what the quality is going to be when you actually get it in the house, so I do want to say, listen to that with a grain of salt. You don't know until you actually get the device, right? It could be pristine when you get it. As far as the sound, right? If I want to compare this thing, the HE600 versus the Ananda Unveiled or the Edition XV, right? The Ananda Unveiled feels like the bass is more livelier, like more dynamic, the bass, right? The treble region feels like a little bit more energetic. I feel like with the HE600, it's more of a, I would say, neutral presentation, right? So like the bass is linear and it extends reasonably well, right? It's not super deep. It's not going to go as deep as like a Arya Organic or something like that that's going to emphasize that sub bass and give you a lot of impact with that. It's not doing that, right? Its objective is to give you a good neutral sound, right? And I think it does that pretty well. Now, as far as like if you were to game on it or something like that, I think that would be where you would, may want to look for something else. I mean, if you're looking for that, or if you like to listen to a lot of hip hop, I think it can handle bass pretty decently. It's just not going to give you an extensive amount of bass, like a lot of bass, right? It's not going to do that. It's not going to be a whole lot of dynamic. It's going to be dynamic, but not like an extreme amount of dynamics for bass hits or whatever, like on a video game. Like I could notice that certain songs have a lot of dynamics, and this one, it did recreate like some bass. Like there's a song called what is it called? A Standing Ovation from Jeezy, right? Young Jeezy. And it gives you kind of that bass that you can get from like a video game. And so I was listening to that and it did good, right? But it's just like maybe with PQ or something, it can make it a little bit better. But on how it was, like just in this natural state, it wasn't like a huge dynamic bass presentation, but that's not all of the sound, right? I do feel like the Edition XV to me had more weight to the mid bass and the bass. To me, the Edition XV has a little bit more weight. The thing about the HE600 is that the thing that I like about it that some people may not like about it, but other people who like the ZMF A trims and headphones like that may like about it. The HE600 tends to where a lot of planar magnetic drivers from Hyphen, I mean, that's what they do. A lot of those headphones, they tend to recess the mid range, right? And I think the reason why they're doing that is they're trying to give you like a wide presentation of the sound. And by recessing the mid range, it helps to create that illusion that, you know, the sound is a lot wider, right? With the HE600, they don't do that. It's kind of like within a 1 or 2 kilohertz region, you feel like it's pushed forward just a little bit more. And that may be great because sometimes like I'm listening to something and I want the vocals to come out a little bit more, right? To be a little bit, yes, I do appreciate the wide sound signature. Egg-shaped cups, a lot of them just sound like really wide. And I love that. But sometimes like there's certain songs that I want to be a little closer. And I feel like the HE600 does that well. And it still gives you a decent width, right? Without taking away anything. As far as is it resolving, right? It's not going to be fatiguing like a lot of hyphens, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be resolving, right? So, for instance, the Edition XV, it's recessed in the treble region, right? So it's kind of like opposite of what hyphen generally does. And with it being recessed in the treble, there is some information that isn't going to come out, right? But it's still resolving, but it's you know, it's some information is not going to come out as much. Whereas, like, I feel like because the neutral presentation of the HE600, you are still getting quite a bit of information in terms of the treble region, and you're still getting, you know, it being resolving. And not saying that just because something has a lot of treble, then it's going to be resolving. Because I've heard tons of headphones that don't have a whole lot of treble emphasis that are more resolving than high treble headphones, you know? So it just depends, but I feel like they picked a nice balance with the HE600. Within the price range, because I think the Ananda Unveiled is like, what is it, around like $500, and then you got this thing like the HE600. I think it was like $800 or something like that now. And then you got the Arya Organic, which is like $768. And then you've got, you know, I mean, you can keep going on with headphones like this price, that price. If I was picking a headphone, right, I would probably get the Organic, honestly, just because it's just, I mean, that's what I got. It's a wider presentation. And I think what the HE600 does not do, it does like really well. Now, there's the mid range, right, with the HE600 that I think is probably handled to some people a little bit more favorably on the HE600 than the Organic, because I feel like the Organic is giving you warmth and a slightly recessed mid range. But you know, a lot of these things can be EQ'd, right? Like, don't let these reviewers like gas you guys up to think, oh well, just because you get a headphone, it can't be EQ'd. It should just be perfect. Just about any headphone you have EQ it, right? Anything that you don't like about it, you know, take it down shelf it. Anything that you love about it and you want it to be more up shelf it. You know what I mean? Like, do what you got to do. I feel like the HE600 probably would respond well to EQ. If it's anything like the Edition XV, it's gonna respond. Any of the hyphens really, they respond pretty good to EQ. So I mean, there are things that I'm just like, this could be a little bit better. That can be a little better, and you know, I'm pretty sure I could just EQ them. But overall, like if you're just listening to a lot of audiophile people are looking for the super neutral sound, right? If that's what you're looking for, you're probably gonna like this, right? You're gonna like it. It's not gonna be fatiguing. It's gonna give you the information that you want. If you have like a decent amp setup, it's gonna be decently revealing. It's not a bad headphone. Like I'm not like no time that I had the HE600 or playing around with it, did I think this wasn't worth the price. Like I thought it was. If anything, like when I was listening to the Arya Unveiled, and then I would go back and I would listen to the HE600, the Arya Unveiled, yeah, it's going to be a little bit better in different areas. But I was like, HE600 is so good, like I couldn't really say like, oh, Arya Unveiled is just destroying. Like it wasn't, it held its own that good to where it was just like it's its own thing, right? And it fits, within the hyphen lineup. Some people don't like the egg-shaped cups. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Everybody likes something different. If you don't like the egg-shaped cups, I mean, you can get the HE600. The pads on the headphones, they didn't feel that great to me. Like they didn't. But I mean, they were reasonable. You know what I mean? Like you're not spending like thousands of dollars on a headphone here. They have to cut cost, right? But I did feel like it. I mean, it was okay. Now, a lot of people, I mentioned the ZMF Atrium earlier, right? A lot of people, that's like one of their favorite headphones because they feel like it's a mid-range monster, right? Like it emphasizes mid-range and, it's not too fatiguing. It doesn't really give you a whole lot of treble emphasis. I think the HE600 gives you some of the, I don't want to say lushness, but some of the emphasis on the mid-range, but it doesn't, but it gives you more uh resolution than the ZMF headphone. Like it does. So if you're listening, because I did listen to ZMF Atriums a lot, and I was going back and listening to different hyphens, and there was a time where I listened to the Boca, and then I listened to the Caldera of the ZMF, and then I went back and I listened to the HE600. And I felt like the HE600 was more resolving than a lot of those ZMF headphones. Not that the ZMF headphones were bad. I just felt like the HE600 was more resolving. It wasn't, it doesn't give you like the ZMF headphones is going to give you a thicker presentation of a lot of the notes, right? Or a lot of the voice is going to sound thicker and more meatier. The HE600 doesn't do that. It gives you like the mid-range, but it's still a lot of hyphens are, I don't want to say thinner sounding, right? Like in a bad way, but they're like lighter on their feet, it feels like. And the vocals are they are a little thinner than some ZMF headphones and stuff like that. But that's why you would get a ZMF over a hyphen, or if you like the delicacy of the hyphen, then you would get that over like, a Sennheiser or something like, there's something for everybody. As far as would I buy the HE600? Yes, I would. For the price, I would. Because I feel like there is enough going for it than going against it. So it's the one I would put on like the E3s even. You know what I mean? Like any of those headphones, I wouldn't feel like the HE600 was being destroyed, right? I felt like there are certain headphones that's better than it in different ways, right? But then there's other ways that this headphone is better than those headphones. Like even like an Odyssey LCDX, right? I've got those. I feel like the HE600 is more resolving, right? It's going to give you, I feel like, more information and it's neutral, but I feel like it gives you more information. Now, if you're talking about which one is more precise, I would probably go with the LCDX for like studios and stuff like that, because it's going to give you, it's afraid to make a mistake, the LCDX. That could be a good thing, that can be a bad thing, right? Because sometimes you just want to sit and enjoy music and it's afraid to make a mistake, but it's warmer and it's going to give you like, don't get me wrong, you can make the LCDX sound bright if you want. That's what you really want. But it's gonna like, it's an easier listen, right? And when you get to the HE600, it's not a harsh like what HE1000. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be as bright as that. You know what I mean? But it's gonna give you a reasonable amount of information. And I do feel like, let's just say you're looking at a piece of paper, right? And it's a flat piece of paper because it's not giving you a whole lot of width. Piece of paper, and it pushes forward a little bit. It gives you a decent amount of depth. Instrument separation, I mean, it's good for its price point. You know, it's kind of on the same line as, I would say, the Arya Organic, of how the instruments are separated. It's not going to separate them as well as like a HE1000 SE. You know, I mean, then you're paying like $1,600 for that. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't a $1,600 headphone. So it just depends on what you want from the headphone. It's not going to give you a big sound, but it's not going to give you a small sound either. You know, it's like a happy medium. And some people don't like super wide sounding headphones. Some people feel like they can sound artificial. Some people feel like, because it's so wide, it could like miss out on depth and layering. Some people feel like that. I hear different reviews all the time. I don't think it extends too far out to where it's like questionable, right? I do feel like the Edition XV is wider. I do feel like, to my ears, it feels to be more mid bass and just bass emphasis with the Edition XV, but that could be because the treble is like recessed, so it's giving more emphasis to the mids and the bass. If you like the Harman curve, I think this is like, it's not going as deep on the bass as like some people would like with the Harman curve, but it can get there. It's just not, that's not the presentation it's looking for, right? It's gonna, if you EQ it to the Harman curve, it's gonna do good. It's just not gonna, it's not, I never felt like it extended more than this. And I never felt like it extended more than Ananda Unveiled. The treble I felt like was harsher on the Ananda Unveiled, but I felt like the HE600 was more resolving. Now, if I'm comparing the HE600 to the original HE6, it doesn't have as much bass as original HE6, but the original HE6 series was like more difficult to drive. So it's like you have to pick which what you want to do. I've heard the HE600 on quite a few amps and tube amps or whatever. I didn't like it too much on tube amps. I thought it sounded better on solid state amps. It's just me. It's not like an Arya Organic where it can just really shine. Like if you put it on a tube amp, it's not gonna do that. But it sounds decent, right? You're gonna get decent warmth out of it depending on what you hook it up to. In my opinion, I think the organics are better. I think they're better. But it's going to depend on you. You know what I mean? What you like. You might pick up the HE600 and say, that's the headphone for me, right? Nothing wrong with that. I just felt like the Arya Organic was a little bit better. But that's my opinion. The Ananda Unveiled, I feel like I said, it's more energetic, more lively than the HE600, but the HE600 is more of when you're getting close to like what you want. If you're looking for something reference, right? You're not looking for something to just be energy or lively, or a bunch of bass, a bunch of treble, nothing like that. You want something that's going to be neutral, what everybody talks about. Then you'll probably get like a HE600. You know what I mean? But with it being neutral, you got a lot of wiggle room what you can do with it. You know what I mean? Like, just don't listen to it and think that's it, right? You can EQ this thing. You know what I mean? Just get equalizer, APO, EQ it, and you can probably get it to sound just as good as you want it to sound. But it's earned its reputation. I feel like it punches within its weight. Like, there's a couple of headphones that I heard, and I'm like, I don't know if this like is sounding like as expensive as it is, right? Like other headphones. And I'll get into those headphones a little bit later, but I'm just like even the HE600S, I listen to that one. I'm just like, it's wide, but no bass. Like, it's just, I mean, low bass. It's just like not really interesting headphone to me. It's just super wide, and I feel like that one's overpriced. Some people feel like they love it, right? But it's no time that I listened to the HE600, I felt like it was overpriced. I felt like it was where it should be. I can only imagine if I could hook that thing up to a K17 or a K19, right? It might. So, you know what that would sound really good on? Now that I'm thinking about it, like listening to it, like a R2R DAC, that would sound like pretty phenomenal because that thing is revealing enough. It's not harsh, which R2R DAC is going to take away the harshness anyway, but it's revealing. And I feel like that would probably pair well, but I would have to listen to it with the R2R DAC and to gauge it. But a lot of times, a lot of neutral headphones to me in my ears sound bright. Headphones sound good with R2R DACs, but neutral headphones still sound like really good with them. So, I mean, I think if you pair it with the ESS DAC, obviously it's going to be more clinical, more analytical, more hollow sounding. It depends on what you're going to pair it with. You know what I mean? But that's my opinion. Let me know what y'all think. I can talk about this headphone all day. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking about buying it. I'm thinking about it. It was good. I'm thinking about buying. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm out. Comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think about that. Hit the like button. Hit the hype button. Let me know y'all want me to continue these videos. I've heard everything. I'm not trying to sell you on nothing. I'll tell you if I think something sounds good or it doesn't. You know what I mean? It makes me no difference. You know what I'm saying? But hit those the like button, hype up the video. That's what I need. I'm out, y'all. Peace.